clock, no clock, no clock. No clock. He's outside time. We're in time. He's outside the bubble of time. He is not tied to a clock. Like, you know how you, back in the old movies, they used to tie the person to the railroad tracks. God is not tied to your railroad track of time. He's not. And he's proven that over and over again throughout Scripture. When he was late. He's always been late with me. You know, that's one of my pet peeves with God. He's always been late. But yeah, he always showed up and showed out in his time. He's going to be the same here, dealing with President Donald Trump in God's time. His perfect. That's what I started saying a long time ago. His perfect time. When? His perfect time. That's my answer. It's coming to know the ways of God. You better learn to know the ways of God. You're going to have some issues. Now, the children of Israel, the children of Ephraim are about to have some issues because they want to rush God's timing on his judgment and his deliverance, his miraculous deliverance. That's why it's miraculous, because God's doing it. And he got a set time and a set clock for deliverance for anyone. That's in your personal life. That's when you recognize him as the potter and you're the clay. God would open the door on this time for your miracle. I don't care what it is. It could be anything from healing to provision. Set you free from a toxic relationship. Anything. In his perfect time. I'm a witness to that. Trust me. God, in his perfect time, it was just, everything fell into place. Poof, be gone. Certain individuals that were torturing me in my past, whatever, it was just gone, disappeared. God, he did that. Wait on the Lord. It says it all throughout the scripture. Now here they go. They're about to jump the gun here. They're going to do it in their own strength. And every man has armor up on him, and they trusted to their own strength. And they went out together from Egypt with a mighty hand, their own mighty hand. And they brought no provision for the road. That's how cocky they were. They were so sure of their skills, their warrior skills. And they were warriors. We read that over and over. Us that's been following this series, this Moses series, has seen. And only a handful of them would wipe out, would kill thousands. The Hebrew nation of Israel. So they were well renowned for warriors. But they brought no provision. They were so cocky. They brought no provision. They bring no food, no water, nothing for the road. Only silver and gold. So they not only trusted in their own strength, they're trusting in silver and gold. How many of you fat cats out there that are wealthy don't really exercise no faith because you're trusting in your silver and your gold? Now you heard me say for many, many years, you'll never understand or get into God's miraculous provision and miracle provision in your own life until you get past your own strength and your own provision, your own finances, to where you have to have God come through or you're dead. And that's when you're walking on water. You're walking like Peter on water, on uncertainty. God don't come through, you're going to drown. It's like Peter. Give him a teaching. The rise and fall and rise of the Apostle Peter. We had to learn that lesson. That's why, well, how many of you, raise your hand, that's trusting in your bank account instead of trusting God? This is what they're doing. Only silver and gold. They're so cocky, they figure they don't have to take no provisions, no water, no food. They can buy whatever on the road out there. Not even bread for that day did they bring in their hands. So this is pride right here. For they thought of getting their provision for pay from the Philistines, and if not, they would take it by force. So now they done turned into pirates. They're going to steal another man's food, the other man's provision, take it from them. And these men were very mighty and valiant men. One man could pursue 1,000. Where did we read that? Is that Deuteronomy 28? These men were very mighty and valiant men. One man could pursue 1,000. One man could chase 1,000 men. And two could rout 10,000. It's like the Bible says. And that promises for us. One could put 1,000 in flight, two could put 10,000. Now we're talking demonic enemies as well. Like our warfare is not carnal, but spiritual, pulling down a mighty strongholds of demons and fallen angels. 1,000, one could chase 1,000 demons, one could chase, and two could chase 10,000. That's what that's saying in today's context. Because we're warned against principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. And we should have the whole armor of God. One, you're doing so, but there's your backup here. This promise here. One could chase 1,000, two could put 10,000 in flight. How many of you Christians are living far beneath their knees and have become a doormat to Satan and his minions, instead of a valiant warrior armored up, chasing 1,000, or two of you chasing 10,000? You're being chased. You're a doormat. He wipes his feet on you and laughs because you're paralyzed by fear, or just straight up lethargic and lethargy. Lazy Christians. And these men were very mighty and valiant men. One man could pursue 1,000, and two could rout 10,000, backslidden Christians. So they trusted to their strength and went together as they were. And they directed their course toward the land of Gad. Now who's from Gad? Raise your hand if you think you know. Goliath. They're going into giant country. And they went down and found the shepherds of Gad feed the cattle of the children of Gad. And they said to the shepherds, "Give us some of the sheep for pay, that we may eat, for we are hungry. For we have eaten no bread this day." See how cocky they are? And the shepherds said, "Are they our sheep or cattle, that we should give them to you, even for pay?" So the children of Ephraim approached to take them by force. And the shepherds of Gad shouted over them, that their cry was heard at a distance. So all the children of Gad went out to them. And when the children of Gad saw the evil doing of the children of Ephraim, they returned and assembled the men of Gad. And they put on each man his armor, and came forth to the children of the children of Ephraim from battle. And they engaged with them in the valley of Gad. And the battle was severe, and they smote from each other a great many on that day. And on the second day the children of Gad sent to all the cities of the Philistines, and that they should come to their help, saying, "Come up to us and help us, that we may smite the children of Ephraim, who have come forth from Egypt to take our cattle and to fight against us without cause." Without cause. They said they provoked this war. Now, this is the history of them interacting with the Philistines is, remember Abraham went down, I believe, it was Abraham that went down to Philistine country, and the king, can't think of his name right now, it'll probably come to me later. The king of the Philistines He lied and said it was his sister and brought a plague on the Philistines. And God, Abraham had to pray. I think Isaac did the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. He went down there too. Both lied and said, their wives are so beautiful. They lied to cover their tracks and said, this is my sister, so they wouldn't get killed. But anyway, God brought a plague on them. And Abraham had to intercede and pray for the plague to go away. So it's interesting. They always started something with the Philistines. You know, the Philistine became a pariah unto the children of Israel. The Philistines, the modern Philistines now, are the Palestinians. The same bunch. That's giving them hell right now. Giving Israel right now. But some things just never change. But they always seem to provoke it, is what I'm saying. The Hebrews did in the Bible. They provoked it with the Philistines. But there was this bitter animosity. Now the souls of the children of Ephraim were exhausted with hunger and thirst, for they had eaten no bread for 3 days. And 40,000 men went forth from the cities of the Philistines to the assistance of the men of Gath. And these men were engaged in battle with the children of Ephraim. And did the Lord pay close attention? And the Lord delivered the children of Ephraim into the hands of the Philistines. If God be for us, who could be against us? But on the flip side is, if God is against you, who could be for you? He turned them over. Now, true, if they would have been in good standing with God, that 40,000 would have been no match for the few and bands of Ephraimites that went down there to do war. They would have wiped them out like they've done, as we read in the past before. Remember, 2 of them, was it Judah and Simeon, I believe? They took out thousands of the Canaanites by themselves. Children of Shechem, I believe. Took out thousands by themselves. Remember we read that? Just 2 men. So they had a reputation for being, but that was only because God was with them. He was their strength. He delivered them into their hands. It's like he's doing the reverse here and delivering the Ephraimites into the Philistines' hands. Worked either way with God. He delivered the Ephraim into the hands of the Philistines, and they smote all the children of Ephraim, killed them. All had gone forth from Egypt. None were remaining but 10 men. God reduced them down to 10 men. 10 is the number of ordinal perfection. 10 commandments, 10 spies, 10. Who had run away from the engagement. For this evil, pay close attention. How many times we read this about evil coming from the Lord? God ain't capable of evil. Really? For this evil was from the Lord. I mean, you just read that, man. And I did a teaching on that a long time ago, showing God said, I created evil for his pleasure. Tell God, God, Christ Jesus is the boss of hellfire. He's the warden. Satan works for God. He's his lackey. For this evil was from the Lord against the children of Ephraim. For they transgressed the word of the Lord in going forth from Egypt. They jumped the gun. Told you. God didn't like that. You better be still and wait on the Lord. Before the period, God got his set time. Forget about the 400 years. God might got a set time for 430 years, which I believe was about right anyway. And arrived, which the Lord in the days of old had appointed to Israel. And of the Philistines also there fell a great many, about 20,000 men. And their brothers carried them and buried them in their cities. And the slain of the children of Ephraim remained forsaken in the valley of Gad for many days and years. The corpses just laid there and were not brought to burial. And the valley was filled with the men's bones. Now, is this that same valley that Ezekiel went and preached to, that valley of bones? Food for thought. And the men who had escaped from the battle came to Egypt and told all the children of Israel all that had befallen them. And their father Ephraim mourned over them for many days. And brethren came to console him. And he came unto his wife, and she bare a son. And he called his name Moriah, for she was unfortunate, because she was unfortunate in his house. And Moses, the son of Aaron, was still king in the land of Cush in those days, and he prospered in the kingdom. And he conducted the government of the children of Cush in justice and righteousness and integrity. He gave them heathens some law and order. And all the children of Cush loved Moses all the days that he reigned over them. Children of Nubia loved Moses. And all the inhabitants of the land of Cush were greatly afraid of him. Now don't forget, Moses would have been the next Pharaoh of Egypt. They knew well about Moses' war campaigns for Egypt, including him conquering Ethiopia. And in the 40th year of the reign of Moses over Cush, 40 years, told you. He went out there chasing those sheep for 4 years. That was a few years. This is what he was doing. He was the king. He was living a luxurious life. And in the 40th year of the reign of Moses over Cush, Moses was sitting on the royal throne, whilst Adoniah, the queen, was before him, and all the nobles were sitting around him. And Adoniah the queen said before the king and the princes, that's Moses, "What is this thing which you, the children of Cush, have done for this long time?" What is this thing? What are you doing? What's the mileage? Surely you know that for 40 years that this man, excuse me, she said that with disdain, that this man has reigned over Cush. He has not approached me. He ain't slept with her. Hell knows no fear like the scorn of a rejected woman. I think every man has encountered that at least once in his life. He has not approached me and sleep with me. He wouldn't be. That was King Kokaniah's wife, and Moses wasn't going to touch her. First, he was forbade to sleep with the children of Ham. Anyway, outside his people, God made that clear. He didn't want them to sleep with any Canaanites and Havites and Perizzites, all the guys, the children of Ham. He has not approached me, nor has he served the gods of the children of Cush. He ain't bowed down to their pagan idols, which was forbade too by his covenant. Now therefore hear, O ye children of Cush, and let this man no more reign over you, as he is not our flesh. Behold, Menurchus, my son, is grown up. Let him reign over you, for it is better for you to serve the son of your Lord than to serve a stranger, a slave of the king of Egypt. And all the people and nobles of the children of Cush heard the words which Adoniah, the queen, had spoken in their ears. And all the people were preparing until evening. In the morning, they rose up early and made Menacrus, son of Kikomas, king over them. And all the children of Cush was afraid to stretch forth their hand against Moses, for the Lord was with Moses. And the children of Cush remembered the oath which they swore to Moses. Therefore, they did him no harm, or they did no harm to him. They don't want to mess with Moses. Remember earlier we read that the Lord sent an angel. And the angel, when Pharaoh made the edict after Moses killed that Egyptian taskmaster, to go on the run, and he was going to have his captain of the guard take Moses' head off. And God sent that angel and chopped that same guard that had the order to kill Moses, chopped his head off in front of Pharaoh. Then the angel turned into Moses, or looked just like Moses. You know, touch not God's anointed. Been around this spiritual law. I taught on it, get my teaching on the video. Touch not God's anointed. Many examples of God standing up for his prophets. But the children of Cush gave many presents to Moses, and sent him forth from them in great honor. And Moses went forth from the land of Cush, and went home, and ceased to reign over Cush. And Moses was 66 years old when he went out of the land of Cush. For the thing was from the Lord, for the period had arrived which he had appointed in the days of old, to bring forth Israel from the affliction of the children of Ham. So Moses went to Midian, for he was afraid to return to Egypt on account of the Pharaoh. Now he's 66. He was 18 when he fled Egypt. And he reigned for 40 years. Or you had that 9 years where he camped with King Coconines. And then he reigned, he became king and reigned for 40 years. Now he's 66 when he returns to Midian. Now he was 80, I believe, when he returned to Egypt to withstand Pharaoh. So he was only a shepherd, if you just do logical, deductive reasoning and math, for 14 years. Which is still considered a long time, chasing sheep around. But it wasn't 40 years. It seemed kind of more idle and ridiculous. Well, this thing was from the Lord, and the period had arrived. God's in control. Relax, God's because you can see him stirring Moses' life. See, God's in control of your life. Doing the same thing. God opens doors, closes doors. When he wants you to go into another direction, a different path, he'll close the door. He did it over and over again in my life. I'm sure if you'd have been serving, the old timers been serving God for a while in your life too as well. You newbies, and you will learn. God wants you to move in another direction. You go to work and all of a sudden you're out of a job. And you got to, it's something you ain't even been trained to do. But God put you there for a reason. To learn something, maybe under a Christian that works there. For a mission that he has for you down the road to do. And you got to get the training that way. So he set you up with the job situation to get you to move. Or God will start you on another career to bring him glory. He's in control. Relax, God is in control. And he appointed in the days of old to bring forth Israel from the affliction of the children of Israel. God is set from the children of Ham. God is setting the stage. So Moses went to Midian, for he was afraid to return to Egypt on account of Pharaoh. And he went and sat at a well of the water in Midian. And the 7 daughters of Ruel, the Midianite, went out to feed their father's flock. And they came to the well and drew water to water their father's flock. So the shepherds of Midian came and drove them away, and Moses rose up and helped them water the flock. And they came home to their father Ruel and told him what Moses had did for them. And they said, an Egyptian man has delivered us from the hands of the shepherds. He drove up water for us and watered the flock. And Ruel said to his daughters, and where is he? Wherefore have you left the man? And Ruel sent for him and fetched him and brought him home. And he ate bread with him. And Moses related to Ruel that he had fled from Egypt, and that he reigned 40 years over Cush. And after they had taken the government from him, and that had sent him away in peace with honor and with presents. And when Ruel had heard the words of Moses, Ruel said within himself, I will put this man into the prison house, whereby I shall conciliate the children of Cush, for he has fled from him. He's thinking that he ran away from Cush. And they took and put him into the prison house. And Moses was in prison for 10 years. And whilst Moses was in the prison house, Zipporah, the daughter of Ruel, took pity over him and supported him with bread and water all the time. And all the children of Israel were yet in the land of Egypt, serving the Egyptians in all manner of hard work. And the hand of Egypt continued in severity over the children of Israel in those days. At that time the Lord smote Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Who smote him? And at that time the Lord smote Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he afflicted him with a plague of leprosy from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, owing to the cruel treatment of the children of Israel. Don't touch God's anointing. At the time from the Lord upon Pharaoh, king of Egypt, for the Lord had hearkened to the prayer of his people and the children of Israel. And their cry reached him on account of their hard work. Still his anger did not turn away from him. And the hand of Pharaoh was still stretched out against the children of Israel. God's pissed at them for worshiping pagan idols. That's what I told you. King mix God and pagans. Remember, God was going to kill them earlier, we read, but he remembered the covenant. Because Aaron had the Spirit of God come on and told him to put away your idols. Stop with your pagan traditions. And they didn't listen to him, and God was going to kill them. But God said, wait a minute, if I do that, I made this promise to Abraham. That's what held God back, the covenant. He's going to kill him several times. Before the Lord, and he increased his yoke over the children of Israel and embittered their lives with all manner of hard work. And when the Lord had inflicted the plague upon Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he asked his wise men and sorcerers to cure him. And the wise men and sorcerers said unto him, that if the blood of little children were put into the wounds, he would be healed. The blood of little children. And Pharaoh hearkened to them, and sent his ministers to Goshen, to the children of Israel, to take their little children. Here we go, child sacrifice. And Pharaoh's ministers went and took the infants of the children of Israel from the bosoms of their mothers. Here we go with abortion again. By force. And they brought them to Pharaoh daily, a child each day. And the physicians killed them and applied them to the plague. Thus they did all the days. And the number of children which Pharaoh slew was 375. Every day they went down to Goshen, snatched a child from the mother, a baby, and killed the baby, and he soaked in a bathtub of the blood of the baby. This is 375 he's up to. And the Lord hearkened not unto the physicians of the king of Egypt, and the plague went on increasing mightily. And Pharaoh was 10 years afflicted with that plague. Still, the heart of Pharaoh was more hardened against the children of Israel. And at the end of 10 years, the Lord continued to afflict Pharaoh with destructive plagues. And the Lord smote him with a bad tumor and sickness at the stomach. And the plague turned to a severe boil. And that time the two ministers of Pharaoh came from the land of Goshen, where all the children of Israel were, and went into the house of Pharaoh and said unto him, We have seen the children of Israel slacken in their work and negligent in their labor. And when Pharaoh heard the words of the ministers, his anger was kindled against the children of Israel exceedingly, for he was greatly grieved at his bodily pain. And he answered and said, Now that the children of Israel know that I am ill, they turn and scoff at us. Now therefore, harness my chariot for me. Harness my chariot for me. Round up the chariot, and I will betake myself to Goshen, and will see the scoff of the children of Israel, with which they are deriding me. So the servants harnessed the chariot for him, and they took and made him ride upon a horse, for he was not able to ride by himself. And he took with him 10 horsemen and 10 footmen, and went to the children of Israel to Goshen. And when he had come to the border of Egypt, the king's horse passed into a narrow place, elevated in the hollow part of the vineyard, fenced on both sides, the low plain country being on the other side. And the horses ran rapidly in that place and pressed each other. And the other horses pressed the king's horse. And the king's horse fell into. So them horses